Hello and welcome. I'm so glad you're here. If you're new, I'm a Japanese maker based in London, and I breathe new life into vintage kimono by transforming them into unique, wearable pieces. But this isn't just a sewing vlog. It's an honest look behind the scenes of running a one-woman handmade business. From the pressure of going viral to the everyday heights and lows, you get the full picture here. I popped the tutorial on screen as we go, and if you're feeling inspired to try it yourself, I'll share the fabric measurements for this bag at the end. So grab a cuppa, get cozy, and let's jump in. Before I even begin taking apart the fabric, I want to take a moment to just sit with this fabric. And what I'm working with today is a vintage fukurobi, a formal sash traditionally worn with kimono. It was likely part of someone's important life event, maybe a wedding or a coming-of-age ceremony. It's heavy, luxurious, and full of history. This particular obi is especially meaningful. It dates back to the 1980s and had been tucked away in a family chest of drawers in Shizuoka, Japan. After the passing of her grandmother, the granddaughter reached out to me. She wanted the obi to live on, not just as a keepsake tucked in a drawer, but as something alive, something carried. She kindly donated it to me with a simple but beautiful request to transform it into a handbag as a way of honoring her grandmother's memory. So today, I'm not just making a bag, I'm fulfilling a custom order filled with emotional and legacy. Stories like this are actually more common than you might think. In a culture where newness is often prized, it used to be quite common in Japan for families to go into debt just to purchase a beautiful kimono for a once-in-a-lifetime celebration. But after being worn for just a few hours, say at a wedding, these kimono would spend the rest of their lives tucked away in a drawer. Because they were so expensive and often carried deep emotional attachment, people couldn't bring themselves to give them away. So they were carefully stored for decades. And then, one day, the drawer is opened and the kimono is covered in mold. Sadly, this is not a rare story. It's a reality. And it's part the reason why around 500 tons of kimono are discarded in Japan every year. As I run my hands over the fabric, the first thing that stands out is the peacock, or kujaku in Japanese. It's more than a beautiful image. In Japanese culture, and especially in Buddhist symbolism, the peacock represents beauty, dignity, and resilience. It's believed that peacocks can eat poisonous plants and remain unharmed, making them symbols of protection and spiritual strength. Getting such a prominent motif isn't always easy, but these are some of the pieces I've worked on. So peacock appears in a textile like this. It's not just for aesthetic. It's a woven blessing. This fukurobi was originally meant to be seen in formal ceremonies with the pattern displayed prominently in the otaiko knot at the back. It's lined with a stiffener called obishin to hold its shape and show off the intricate design. But now, after years of quiet storage, it's being given a new purpose. And here comes the delicate part, cutting. This is where tradition meets transformation. Some people see this and say I'm destroying culture. But I don't believe that. I believe culture is meant to evolve, to breathe and live beyond the closet. When I cut into this obi, I'm not erasing its past, I'm carrying it forward. That first cut is always the hardest, I suppose. It's a commitment. There's no undoing it. But in that moment, I also feel deeply connected to the woman who wore this, and the granddaughter who trusted me with it. Every decision I make, which part of the peacock's tail appears on the flap, where the shimmer of gold thread will catch the light, is made with care and intention. I want the final bag to sit feel like her grandmother's story is inside it. This is slow work. It's not just about technique, it's about heart. I want to stay connected to every thread, to the artisans who wove it decades ago, the women who wore it, the family who held onto it, and now the granddaughter who will carry it into the future. I don't think of this as breaking tradition. I think of it as a dialogue, a conversation across generations, stitched into every seam. The idea for these bags actually came to me during my first trade show at the Hampton Court Food Festival in 2024. Since the event required traders to sell food-related items, my initial plan was to offer table runners, teapot cozies, and placemats. But then my husband suggested, what about grocery bag? That simple idea turned into a huge success. Even better, I gave customers the option to choose an obi from my collection and have a bag custom-made, which they absolutely loved. This approach worked well for me too, because I didn't have to create stock without knowing if it would sell. Fast forward to 2025, I'm now focused on building my online presence. I'm not attending many markets except for one major event, Hyper Japan. Hyper Japan is the UK's largest festival dedicated to Japanese culture and cuisine, held annually in London. It's a 3-day event that showcases the best of Japanese culture, from anime, manga, and music to fashion, food, and traditional crafts. Attendees can explore a wide range of Japanese products, enjoy live performances, workshops, and the vibrant atmosphere of the Japanese festival. I'm proud to announce that this year, I'll have a ground floor spot alongside other prestigious Japanese retailers. I'm taking custom orders to work on over the summer. I also bring my ready-made products, and this time, I'm not limited to just food-related items. Let's see how it goes. I know many of you watching this video are from all over the world, but if you happen to be in London in 3 weeks' time, please come along and say hello. I'd love to chat. Returning to the design process, I began by laying out the cut pieces of the obi next to each other. Imagine how they'll come together. I studied the flow of the peacock tail feathers, where the gold threads catches the light, how the motif moves across the fabric. I don't want to interrupt it with seams or folds. I want the back to remain graceful, to still feel like a kimono piece rather than something mass-produced. This is the part of the process that often goes unseen. The small, silent decisions that shape the final result. It's not just about how big should the flap be or where should the clasp go. It's also about questions like, will this bag still carry her grandmother's energy? Does this feel respectful to the fabric's original purpose? My philosophy as a creator is rooted in transformation with intention. I'm not interested in chasing trends or simply making pretty things. I want each bag to carry a spirit of care. Care for the material, for its cultural origins, and for the person who will carry it. That's why I often say, these aren't accessories. They are wearable stories. There's something incredibly powerful about taking something that was once part of a quiet, formal tradition and bringing it into someone's everyday life. This isn't about rejecting the past. It's about giving it motion. Culture doesn't have to sit behind glass to be respected. It can evolve. It can be used. It can be reimagined. As long as it's done with understanding, humility, and love. And that's what I try to hold on to in every design choice. The balance between honoring and innovating. The challenge of carrying culture forward without reducing it to a product. It's hard, honestly. There are days when I wonder if I'm getting it right, but I always come back to the same idea. I'm here to create not just bags, but meaning. After days holed up in the studio, surrounded by fabric scraps, rogue threads, and the occasional panic over bobbin tension, I finally escaped the sewing cave. Where did I run off to? Music. Sweet, glorious, thumping music. Not just any gig, mind you, it was YOASOBI. Now, if you've not heard of them, YOASOBI is one of Japan's biggest musical exports at the moment. They basically turn short stories into absolute bangers. Imagine literature and J-pop having a stylish baby with feelings. Their hit Idol, yep, that one from Oshinoko, has gone utterly viral. And they're reshaping otaku culture while they're at it. No big deal. When they announced their first ever UK show, it was chaos. They once sold out in under a minute. Yes, literally a minute. Madness. So they added a second show, and by some miracle of the ticketing gods, I actually got in. Not just that, we went fully VIP. Launch access, early entry, actual seats for our actual bags. Pure decadence for parents of 2 small children who rarely sit down unless it's to pick Lego out of their feet. Now I adore our kids, truly, but let's be honest, our lives revolve around them. So we decided for one night, we'd revolve around ourselves. I live by an all or nothing philosophy. Simple living every day, but when it's time to celebrate, pull out the stops and the fancy napkins. Thanks to a very kind friend who took on babysitting duty, we had the night off and we were going to milk it. The VIP lounge was dead quiet, dimly lit. Definitely not the kind of place where you'd find a juice box or Peppa Pig in the background. We ordered burgers from the top of the menu, expecting something casual, only to be handed cutlery. Burgers with a knife and fork. I've never felt more like posh royalty with ketchup on my chin. I got a cocktail. It was outrageously good. We wandered around early to scope out the venue. Surprisingly cool and calm, considering downstairs was standing only. I looked at the fans pressed up against the barrier and thought, blimey, they must have been holding their bladders since lunchtime. That's commitment. Also spotted a random Pikachu as you do. We checked out the food stands, not too crowded, despite the previous night being total mayhem. Staff mentioned day one had been properly mental. And the merch? Gone. All of it. Sold out. Tragic. Then I saw it. The exact same burger from the launch. Just on sale to the public. But I convinced myself it had to be different. Mine was accompanied by a cocktail, soft lighting, and furniture. Completely different vibe. Practically gourmet. Yes, I was eating again, despite just eating. But listen, when you get to eat in peace without a toddler demanding a bite might chew, even a greasy snack feels like a Michelin experience. Back at our seats, I considered getting another drink, but didn't. And if you're a woman, you already know why. Meanwhile, the standing area was packed, and I saw staff handing out water cups. My heart. When do you ever see that? Honestly, the UK could take notes. Or maybe it's just good crowd control. No one wants a fainting fan mid-ballad. Still, lovely touch. Then the lights dimmed. The screen lit up, and it began. It had been nearly a decade since my last proper concert, Summer Sonic in Japan, when my now husband and I were still dating and cool. Being back in that space, completely immersed, all senses engaged, it was electric. I felt so much awe, not just for the artists, but the crew behind the curtain, making it all possible. The region, the tech, the timing, a silent standing ovation to all of them. YOASOBI smashed it, and now they've announced their next dream, Wembley Stadium. It's right next door to this venue, and it's almost 7 times bigger in capacity, 90,000. Ambitious? Yes, but honestly, they'll sell it out in less than a heartbeat. Right. That was a massive detour from fabric and fashion, wasn't it? But the truth is, it's moments like these, the music, the lights, the rare taste of freedom, that refill my creative tank. I carry it back with me into the studio, into the hum of the sewing machine, the rhythm of hand stitching. It's all connected. So next time you see one of my bags, just know there might be a little YOASOBI sparkle stitched in. Now, here's where things took a bit of a turn. Not long after I shared the first video of this handbag, yes, this very one I'm making with the vintage obi, it started picking up views. A lot of views. Comments came pouring in. Some were absolutely lovely, thoughtful, supportive, curious, people genuinely interested in the story, the craftsmanship, the culture. It was incredibly heartwarming to see. But then, the other side showed up. I started getting messages accusing me of destroying traditional Japanese culture, that I was butchering a kimono, that I had no right to cut into an obi, even though this one had been sitting in a drawer for decades, unused, and was gifted to me with love. It's a custom order, by the way, from a Japanese granddaughter in Shizuoka who asked me to give it a new life in memory of her grandmother. Still, the backlash kept coming. On Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, some people were genuinely upset. Others were just angry, loud, and frankly didn't want to listen to the context. At first, it shook me. I won't lie, I wondered if I'd done something wrong. I even questioned whether I should stop making these bags altogether. That's the thing about going viral. The internet doesn't come with nuance. It comes with algorithm and pitchforks. But after sitting with it for a few days and talking to friends, mentors, and even a few kimono experts, I realized this. Culture isn't meant to sit in a drawer. It's meant to evolve, to be lived, shared, reimagined. I'm not cutting these pieces out of ignorance or disrespect. I'm doing it with deep reverence, with my own hands, slowly, intentionally, and always telling their story as I go. That said, the fact that there's been such a strong reaction also tells me just how sacred, how deeply cherished kimono are to many people. So yes, I was surprised, but I also see it as a big opportunity. If I can guide that passion toward the right intention, there's real potential to create something meaningful and lasting. So I made a kind of response video just after all the fuss, calmly explaining that I'm simply doing my part to promote sustainable fashion. No drama, just honesty. What happened next? Well, that video's now floating around all sorts of platforms, and if you have a moment, go take a look at the comments. It turned into a whole thing, in the best way. People started sharing their own stories, their memories, even debating respectfully. Imagine that. I believe in the idea of ma, the beautiful Japanese concept of space, of the in-between. I'm building a bridge between tradition and modern life, between memory and movement. It's not perfect. It's not always easy, but it's honest. And if people are talking, even if some of it stings, maybe that means the work is doing what art is supposed to do. Start conversations. So here I am, still sewing, still storytelling, and still trying to navigate that delicate space between appreciation and criticism. But I wouldn't trade it, because every time someone messages me and says, "My grandmother used to wear something just like that," I remember why I started in the first place. There's one more thing I get asked quite a lot, especially by those of you who have vintage kimono at home or are thinking about commissioning a custom piece. How do you deal with the smell? It's a totally fair question. I've mentioned before that the scent of kimono, that particular musty, nostalgic aroma, can actually be quite beautiful when you know its context. It's like the perfume of time itself. But I also completely understand that sometimes it's a bit much. So here's what you can do. Even if you live outside of Japan, whether your kimono is silk, polyester, or cotton, the same general steps apply. First, try airing it out. Hang it on a kimono hanger or anything long enough to support the sleeves in a shaded, breezy spot, not in direct sunlight. If you're airing it outdoors, burn it in at night to avoid it absorbing moisture. If the smell is particularly stubborn, try hanging it under an eave overnight. This allows the fabric to naturally breathe out the odor with a moisture cycle. You may need to repeat this process a few times. Next, you can try an unscented deodorizing gel, the kind you might use in a wardrobe. Place it near but not touching the kimono in a large plastic bag or garment cover and leave it sealed for a few days to a week. Another traditional trick is to roast green tea leaves in a dry pan. Wrap them in thin paper and store that with the kimono. It sounds odd, but it works. Tea is a natural deodorizer. If you're feeling brave, you can also use a steam iron from a distance to refresh the fibers. But do be cautious. This won't be suitable for delicate silks, shibori tie-dye, embroidered pieces, or anything with metallic threads. And avoid regular deodorizing sprays. They're not designed for traditional textiles and may do more harm than good. If the smell is due to mold, ideally you should consult a professional cleaner. But I know that's easier said than done outside Japan. If you're working with an obi, you might try removing the inner core. With kimono, opening up the lining layer can help reduce the odor as well. And if you've got a clever solution or a favorite trick I haven't mentioned, do pop it in the comments. Let's help each other out. Now, let's finish up this beautiful piece, and as always, this is where the pressure quietly builds. Finishing a bag is never just about sewing the final seam. It's the moment where every little decision I made earlier, every cut, every lining choice, every stitch comes together. Or doesn't. No pressure. I know a lot of people imagine that crafting is relaxing. And don't get me wrong, it can be. There's a real sense of flow when things are going smoothly. But towards the end of the piece like this, especially a custom order with deep emotional value, that calm can turn into a quiet kind of tension. Not stressful exactly, but alert, focused. You feel the weight of it. This bag isn't just a project, it's someone's memory, someone's legacy, carried forward into everyday life. So as I assemble the handles, align the seams, and give it its final shape, I'm constantly checking. Are the patterns aligned? Is the thread too tight or too loose? Are the materials singing in harmony or clashing in subtle, silent ways? And I'll be honest, sometimes I'll redo something 3 or 4 times if it's not quite right. Because once this bag leaves my studio, it's no longer mine. It's part of someone else's story. And I want it to hold up. Not just structurally, but emotionally too. There's always that final moment before I turn it right side out. The big reveal. That's the make or break second where I see what all these hours have actually produced. Let me tell you, even after years of doing this, it still gives me a little rush of nerves. But this one, it's special. You can feel it in the fabric, in the way that light catches the old gold thread. It's not just a bag. It's a quiet collaboration between past and present. And that, right there, that's why I do this. So let's talk about the stuff that doesn't always make it into the glossy, perfectly edited videos. I promise you, this will be the final detail. The hard part of running a handmade business. Yes, this channel is growing. Yes, one of my bags went viral. And yes, I'm incredibly grateful. But to be completely honest, I'm still struggling to actually sell them. You think going viral might translate into sales, right? Sometimes it does, but often it doesn't. My regular customers are wonderfully loyal. But even the most enthusiastic among them don't need 5 of the same bag. And let's not forget, kimono fabric is incredibly durable. It doesn't wear out quickly like fast fashion, which is brilliant for sustainability, but not so great for repeat sales. So to keep the business going, I constantly need to reach new people. But when you're working in a niche as specific as this, upcycled kimono bags, finding that one person who gets it is like looking for a needle in a haystack. This isn't something you can just throw on a supermarket shelf next to the hummus and hope it sells. And then there's a price. My bags aren't cheap. They're often several times more expensive than fast fashion alternatives. But they're handmade, one by one, with fabrics I personally select, piece by piece, many of them brought back during trips home to Japan. They are not just accessories, they're stories. But try explaining that on TikTok in under 15 seconds. In the first year, I tried doing physical markets, lots of them, in and around London.
Going to realize it one day. That happiness was never about your job or your degree or being in a relationship. Happiness was never about following in the footsteps of all of those who came before you. It was never about being like the others. One day you're going to see.
I met some lovely people, those who love Japan or have some special connection to it. Often understood immediately and supported me warmly. But truthfully, those encounters were rare and entirely unpredictable. Sales depended on everything from the weather to what events were happening nearby to whether the store next to me was blasting Eurobeat and selling plastic earrings for a fiver. Last year's Christmas market was a real eye-opener. It was on one of London's busiest shopping streets, prime location. But many stores were selling accessories that had clearly been bulk ordered from Temu or Shein for under a tenner. And people were buying them. It was frankly disheartening. Online, it's no easier. Social media algorithms change constantly. If you're not glued to the trends, you get left behind. I can spend hours filming and editing a video only to have it flop and drive barely any traffic to my website. If you also run a handmade business, you know the stink of watching something you poured your soul into get buried by the algorithm gods.
Oh my god, look at that.
But despite all of that, I still believe this world holds real magic. In the past, if you were an artist or creator, you had to go through gatekeepers, agencies, buyers, middlemen. These days, the internet has made it easier than ever to get your work seen by someone across the world. That's incredible. So should you start a handmade business? Well, it depends on what you're hoping to get out of it. If you have time, some financial cushion, and you're doing it for creative expression, then honestly, I'd say go for it. It can be one of the most rewarding, joyful things you'll ever do. Markets are full of colorful characters, and the community is lovely. But if you're hoping to financially support your family from day one, let me be blunt. There's so much uncertainty, and the stress is relentless. And yet, I can't walk away because my passion outweighs the struggle. I have a vision for this, and I'm determined to make it work. If you got the same fire, if you believe you can bring value to the world through what you create, then truly, there's no better time than now. It's one life. Do it. And if you're that kind of person, the kind who's choosing to build something beautiful even when it's hard, I'm cheering for you. This homogenized world needs more of you. Even one new voice can change the story. And finally, the big reveal. After countless hours at the sewing machine, juggling life, social media, the occasional identity crisis, the bag is done. Every stitch, every curve, every pattern choice carries a bit of my story. From salvaging old kimono fabric to packaging it up with care, this isn't just a product. It's a little piece of my heart. Honestly, I never imagined a bag could hold so much. Not just belongings, but memories, resilience, and perhaps even a stubborn sense of hope. While it might appear like just another handmade item on someone's feet, to me, and maybe to someone watching this, it's a symbol of trying, of showing up, of quietly choosing meaning in a world that often tells you to choose speed. The granddaughter actually sent me 2 kimono obi, one to turn into the bag, and another to make a wearable item. The design features motifs like the royal ox and chrysanthemum, which traditionally symbolize nobility and longevity in Japanese textiles. Along with the peacock obi from earlier, I'm carrying her intention forward, giving these beautiful fabrics a new life. If you're curious about how they turned out, check out my store. To everyone who's been cheering me on, whether you've bought a piece, shared a video, or left a kind comment, arigato, truly. Your support reaches deeper than you probably realize. If you're also walking a path that feels uncertain or uphill, please know you're not alone. We're all just out there doing our best with what we've got. This journey hasn't been easy, but it's been honest. And for that, I'm deeply grateful. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next video. またね。